So today, as we're recording, is December 22nd. And I decided yesterday would be a good day to start Christmas shopping. Have you guys started yet?
I started for next year.
To say we're waiting till the last minute is almost literal in our household. And my wife decided that she was going to order some National Geographic Globe educational thing for our 4-year-old. But instead of just buying it, she decided to go to Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, wow.
Now, do either of you guys have any experience shopping on Facebook Marketplace?
It's a cesspool of terrible people that don't understand pricing or negotiating or really anything else about regular society and how people operate.
Yeah. I had a great experience that was nothing like that. Just kidding. No, I had that exact experience. So we negotiated this thing, and in fairness, if it had been me, I just would have said no. Like, to save $20 off the retail cost of a toy, I would not have done this. But my wife said, "Oh yeah, I found this deal. It's this person just outside of Louisville." So already I'm like, the math doesn't really work for me. But she already kind of made the arrangements, and so I drive out to this place that's past Shelbyville. It's about an hour and 25-minute drive. I get out there, and it's this electronic globe thing that was represented as new in box, that was scratched all to pieces and missing the battery door. So I drove an hour and a half to tell this lady, no, I'm not buying this. Yeah. This is absolute hot garbage. And I'm done. I'm not often the guy that's like, no, you're not allowed to do something anymore. I don't think like that's your place in marriage to tell your partner that. But I drew a line. I'm like, no more. I'm not going to be your mule to save $20 on something that looks like you bought it at a yard sale. I'm out.
Yeah, and how much gas was it to get there back?
About $20. And I didn't even get the globe. You are listening to The Soapbox. I'm Paul.
And I'm Eric.
This all started out with a list. What's that all about?
So I've compiled a list over the years of things that just bother me, things that grind my gears. And I shared that list with you.
And I thought, you know what? That would make interesting conversation. Sometimes I'm going to want to agree with you, and it's just going to be something we talk about. Other times, though, I'm going to want to steel man the opposite position because I think that's just interesting conversation.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I'm always right, but Paul's just a really good debater.
Hey.
That's good. Were we going to tease the idea of Lanny and I occasionally taking over the soapbox once or twice? Have you talked to him about this?
This is the first he's here. No.
What? What? How dare you?
I was going to kind of ease into it a little bit, feed him a Coney Chonga. I mean, come on, man.
He just said something about giving me whiskey, and I was like, okay, that makes me pliable, I guess.
Do I need to go get the good whiskey?
Oh. Yeah.
Because Andrew drinks E-Dub or whatever. What you got going on this week?
Evan Williams.
There you go.
Says the choice to mix with
I brought Benchmark, which is in a plastic bottle. So
yeah,
Benchmark is the it's the what is it? The Sazerac version of Evan Williams, basically.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't like Evan Williams just in general, so I found this. I'm like, I kind of like it.
Benchmark is good.
Yeah,
Benchmark is the stuff that doesn't make it into Buffalo Trace.
Buffalo
bottles.
Trace. That's right.
Yeah,
I couldn't come up with that.
That tracks.
I am not functioning highly today. I did not have enough sleep.
Oh, you got to tell them about this. Tell them about where you all went.
So, my youngest daughter got diagnosed with autism this summer.
Oh, no.
Really?
Past summer. Very high functioning. She has the best grades of all of our kids. But, like, some of the things that we have always known about her really start to make sense once you put a label on it. And you're like, that makes so much more sense. So, she is 13 and obsessed with a 75-year-old Billy Joel.
Wow.
Huh.
So Billy Joel is playing a series of football stadium shows, and he is playing with Rod Stewart in September in Cincinnati.
Male white Tina Turner.
Right?
Yep.
And so we were going to take her to that. And then I start researching, and I'm just like, well, he's going to be in Indianapolis with Sting.
Ooh.
Oh, even
That'd be
better.
a good show.
In a week and a half. So I was like, I text my wife. I'm like, hey, would you rather see Rod Stewart or Sting? And she's like, is that even a question?
Yeah.
And so we ended up going to the Billy Joel Sting concert in Indy last night and driving back.
Did he play bass?
too?
Sting?
Or did he just
Is
sing?
that have you seen Sting?
I was just curious. If
That's
he was
what he
singing.
does.
I know that's what he also sings. So
No, he always plays the bass. He always plays in a trio. Like, he refuses to bring another musician on. So
I am so jealous that that's the reason you're tired. My reason is that I've got 2 sick kids at home.
Oh, geez. I was fascinated with a 13-year-old girl
right.
being obsessed with Billy Joel in the first place.
Also, a big Cobra Kai fan. So anything Ralph Macchio.
yeah.
Does this go all the way back to the Karate Kid as well?
All the way
too?
back to the Karate Kid, knows all about the Karate Kid, has the Karate Kid stuff in her room, has the Billy Joel stuff
How
in her room.
does she feel about the, was it Jaden Smith Karate Kid?
Oh, yeah.
It's non-canon.
Doesn't
that
exist?
That
No,
one's kind of.
it does exist, but she's like, no.
Yeah.
The TV show is the TV show to me. It's a Netflix show, right? I've watched all of them. I love it. But it is, to me, is the manifestation of a meme. Like,
Yeah, because online for years, people wanted to talk about how the Karate Kid was, in fact, the villain.
Yeah.
And Cobra Kai was doing nothing wrong because he's pulling out moves in competition that are not competition allowed.
Yeah.
And he's got this renegade guy training him in a way that's not traditional. And one of the main focuses on the martial arts in general, it's supposed to be the juxtaposition of having power and exercising restraint.
Yeah, self-defense.
And the restraint portion is equally or more important to the having power. And they just sidestep that altogether. They're like, beat up the bully, go punch him in the face, sweep the leg.
Yeah.
Right.
No, sweep the leg was Cobra Kai.
But here, you could make a good argument if you didn't have, if you didn't write the characters for Cobra Kai for the bad guys as such jerks that the real villains are, Miyagi and Daniel-san.
Putting these kids in the line of fire. Yeah, don't they sort of represent like the government figure sending a young man out to war?
Oh, we have gone off track here.
Man, I am totally out of my depth. I'm just like, it's cool.
So How I Met Your Mother did a nice bit about it where Barney, they threw a party for him and they got Ralph Macchio because he didn't know he's a big Karate Kid fan. And he goes, yeah, Ralph Macchio is not the Karate Kid. And then Zach... what's his name? William Zabka, right?
Yeah.
Is standing there in a clown costume, and he starts like taking off his makeup. I couldn't agree with you more. And after about 2 sentences, he fully takes off everything. He's got his gi on, and he does the Cobra Kai thing, and Barney hugs him or whatever. It's great.
If Margot was here, she could tell you all of this. She's just into it.
Yeah.
And so she was in heaven last night watching 75-year-old Billy Joel crank out the greatest hits.
How did we get? Wow, we went
Billy Joel to Karate Kid.
I mean,
a matter
we're
of seconds.
in the right decade still.
Through the
I feel
guise
like-
of autism.
We're 5 minutes and 50 seconds into this, and we've covered
and we haven't even introed the different location, the interesting background sounds we're going to have, or the fact that there are currently 4 voices, one of which has never appeared on the podcast.
Okay. Do you want me to?
Yeah.
First of all, I don't know. Are people going to recognize that I've been on the podcast before? They know who I am.
Oh, of course, man.
Okay.
With all our comments are about you. We haven't had a single.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Haven't
take it over, horse.
You haven't had a single comment about anything else.
Huge in Belgium.
Right.
No, Jacksonville, Florida. We're huge, and we don't have no idea why.
Hello, Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
to my left, clockwise, is William Lancaster Brannock,
oh wow.
a.k.a. Lanny, a.k.a. reporting live, Bill Lancaster. Back to you.
Oh my gosh.
Former newsman.
Can we just do news segues the entire time?
Yeah, we can coming at you live from we'll pick a location.
There we go. There we go. Georgetown,
Yeah.
Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
We're going to have all the commentary about everything except the game.
That's right. And I do want to point out, since last time we talked to Horse, we talked about the nickname thing, and I went, years before I knew his name. You learned very late. I learned just today his name's William.
It is.
I had no idea Lanny was
Lanny was not the name.
No.
He used to, so Lanny used to be on WKYT in Lexington. I many times tried to convince him that he should go by Bill Lancaster.
So, are you serious?
You don't remember these conversations?
Do you know I was Bill Lancaster on the radio in Irvine, Kentucky in 1996? Did you not know that?
How did I not know that?
I don't know. I think you have juxtaposed something that goes back 3 decades, and now you just don't even know what you're talking about.
Maybe that's true.
So you went with the actual first name and not a radio handle.
So in Lexington, when I broke onto the air in 1995, I was Lanny Brannock, and I was just like, I hate that name because it's an unusual name.
I mean, they're not getting better.
No.
My old neighbor is Leo Brown, but he was Freak Daddy.
Oh yeah, Leo was.
And I'm not convinced he loves that name, but it's his brand, right? He's
right.
Go with it.
Freak Daddy is Freak Daddy forever. He cannot change now. Yeah. But anyway, I was Lanny Brannock in Lexington, so I get to Irvine. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be Bill Lancaster. I'm going to be Bill Lancaster, the news guy, and changed it to Bill Lancaster for the year that I was on radio in Irvine. And then when I got to KYT, I asked my boss, I was like, I was Bill Lancaster in Irvine. He's like, no, you're Lanny. I was like, oh, okay. Well,
so you don't even get a choice in the matter.
That's dead, I guess. He goes, listen to your name, Lanny Brannock. It has a nice alliteration. And I was like, all right, go ahead. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. It does feel like it's got a bit of a brand to it.
You know what? Here's the thing about Lanny Brannock, the name, if I'm just stepping back from my own person and looking at it. I don't have to fight with anybody for Gmail.
Yeah, that's right.
I have all the Yahoos. You look me up, you're not confused with anybody else on the planet as far as I know.
Yeah.
So
I have the opposite problem.
Right.
I got into Gmail very early. And my previous email addresses, like everybody's first email address was cringe.
Oh yes.
Joe Mama.
I'm not even going to tell you what mine was. It's dead. It's dead to the world. It doesn't need to come back in any form or fashion. But when I became self-aware and I decided, okay, I need something that's going to be more professional, something that I can put on a resume, I thought first initial, middle initial, last name, done. And when Gmail first became a thing, you had the opportunity to buy a Gmail account from somebody else that was selling them on eBay, because the only way you could get a Gmail account was if you knew somebody who had it that would give you one of their invites.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I spent a whopping 99 cents, bought an invite from some rando on eBay, and registered P.A. Ross. And I thought, this is great. This is fantastic. Except there are probably 3 or 4 people that are Pam Ross or Pat Ross or some variation who often get confused. One of them whom is a judge and uses their personal Gmail account for court business.
Oh my God.
And I can show you emails, probably half a dozen, where I have lawyers and paralegals sending me questions like, is this permissible? And I have some fun with it. I'll say things like, this looks good, but pick up a fun font. I'm tired of Times New Roman. Please resubmit with Comic Sans. One time I gave somebody blanket permission for whatever evidence they wanted to submit.
Oh my God.
And of course they have my permission, but that may not hold up in court. Yeah. So yeah, I try to have fun with it, but I also recognize like the Lanny Brannock at Gmail or whatever the email address ended up being way better, because you're not going to likely have some Pam or Pat that's confused and leaves a T off.
I never have to worry about it. So
no. I did get something very personal sent to me over Teams at work once, where it was some medical document, and then I got it and I was like, oh man, I know the compliance guy at UK. I know I have to report this.
Oh, yes, you do.
And I said at the horsey, and I was like, am I supposed to send this to you? He's like, yeah. Yeah, my day just got a lot busier.
Yeah, I was like, man, it was just it was a nice, smooth day so far. Here comes Greenie with trouble.
Yep. And speaking of the compliance guy at UK, I'm going to just point a thing out that I think we may have talked about casually, but I'm so entertained by. Whenever you do send an email out, you always assume doctor, don't you?
No, but this is in particular when you guys did this whole compliance thing.
It was the conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So I received an email to Dr. Ross.
Yeah.
And in my previous job, I worked with somebody that hadn't done their dissertation, but they still wanted all the notoriety that came with the PhD, and so they would sign their emails PhD, ABD, all but dissertation. And so I joked with my supervisor at the time. I said, I'm going to start signing my emails PhD, AB, PhD, because I haven't done any of it, right? I had a master's degree now. At the time, I only had a bachelor's degree. And then I get Dr. Ross, and I'm like, Eric, this is destiny. This is telling me this is exactly how I need to sign my emails.
That was back when we were using, I won't talk about the software. We were using a software suite that had some limitations in that you had to design a template, an email template. Speaking of email, where we just had to create an email template that dumped last names in. It was the best way that we could think of to do it. And we just kind of had to go, you know what? Most of the people are going to be doctors, so we just have to kind of go with doctors.
And
so
since we don't have any doctors in the room, let's talk about the hubris that's attached with that.
No real doctors.
No, yeah.
No, I think you're really cool about it, but I have met folks that have the PhD that absolutely feel the compulsive need to correct you if you don't use that titling. But it's not usually in professional context, right? It'll be like you're having Thanksgiving and you're having some mashed potatoes and you're like, oh, hey, Mr. So-and-so. Oh, it's doctor. Like, okay, are you doing some surgery on that little piece of turkey there right now, doc? Like,
Right.
Why do you feel the need to correct me here?
That's great. The credentials hardo is one of the most that just screams pretension, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Pretension?
It's like
Pretentiousness?
I told you about the Funny or Die clip or some British clip of a guy walking around a party and he's, oh, what do you do for a living? And he's like, oh, I'm an accountant. And he's like, oh, well, I'm a brain surgeon. So accounting, it's not really brain surgery, is it? And it goes through, like, he talks to everyone. He's bragging about he's doing all that. And then a rocket scientist shows up. He's like, what do you do? He's like, well, it's not rocket scientist. But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of the room, we're in a new room. We got mics. We're standing. We're not even sitting.
Yeah. So the last time every time we're off location, we're with Horse. I think you're our off location reporter now.
Well, it's starting to get to the point where if I'm involved, then it's just going to be some kind of janky setup where we've got the Roadcast sitting here on top of an old bass amp.
Yep. With some gaffer tape.
With some gaff tape and standing in a room with mic stands that I just kind of grabbed from my gear collection. So,
and we can't move more than 6 inches any direction without unplugging or possibly toppling it all over.
Right.
Yeah. So we've got
this is my house. This is my place, though. So this is the third different studio location at least, right?
And we're here prior to the Super Bowl, and this is an annual tradition for Horse, minus COVID.
Yeah, the one year we hosted. Yeah,
going back a number of years.
Oh gosh,
15 or 20.
Yeah, Piper, our friend Chris Piper, who will be here later.
Yeah. We'll get him.
Was the originator of.
Or was it Nick?
The Super Bowl. Maybe it was Nick.
No, because Nick, the wardrobe malfunction was at Nick's.
This is where people are going to start turning off the podcast.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
No, we had it at your place for a few years, and then we came back. Yeah. So, because actually, a couple of years when Aaron and I owned the bar, we were like, we're not putting the time in for that. We do bar stuff with party animals.
On the regular
6 days a week, and we don't.
So all this to say, there's going to be a couple of new features to this podcast, rather than the sirens from the downtown location that we're used to, where you'd have to take a shot. Instead, there's going to be possibly people coming in the door, and we've also got a little special guest who is furry and running around on 4 legs right now.
That's Stuart Bentley, Sir Stuart Bentley.
Yep,
Stewie,
and Stewie is an excitable little guy. So if Stewie barks, take a shot.
Yep. And we might too. I might. I'm not driving home, so
we might be talking about a subject that you guys don't get into much.
Well, let's go down that road, because I feel like I've got some opinions, but I also feel like I've got uninformed opinions, and maybe that makes for interesting juxtaposition.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that we had tossed around talking about today is sports betting.
Sports ball.
Sports in general.
Sports in general. Okay.
Well, we were talking about you guys don't talk about sports a lot. Lanny and I constantly talk about sports. And we thought maybe on occasion we might just come and take over your podcast once every few weeks. How do you guys feel about that?
Do a sports episode.
Love it.
Yeah, there's so much out there you can talk about, and for some people they just don't care, and that's okay. Yeah. But some people live and breathe it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Especially in Jacksonville.
Well, I feel like what we've just unofficially done was franchise, and now we've got a media empire here, because we also have two folks that are consummate professionals on the media landscape. One in the production side, one on-air talent. So what do a couple hacks like us have to contribute?
Right.
It's been fun. I'll see you guys later. No.
We'll just put it on mute. And
here's something I want to ask you guys about, and maybe it does grind your gears. When you are around people that they make their personal identity their team, or their personal identity the sport that they follow, and you're just like, I don't understand you. Maybe I don't dislike you, but I don't get you. Does that kind of grind your gears?
So I've had a couple of, and I think I've told the story before of Tubby Smith. Did I tell that story?
No, it's on the list.
Okay. This might be a really good time for that, actually. So I used to work for AT&T, actually Singular Wireless back in the day, and it became AT&T. And while it was Singular Wireless, I worked in a kiosk in Nicholasville, Kentucky, and I didn't have coworkers for a year. And I slipped into a pattern of not knowing how to relate to other people in a professional setting.
Okay.
Which was not good when they closed the kiosks and moved me into a retail store, because it's a commission-based sales environment. And there's a fair amount of competition, right? You want to make sure you're getting good customers. You want to turn over transactions quickly. So if there's not a lot of bodies in the room, it's kind of like, whose turn is it? And there's a lot of just weird courtesy and weird competition. And then you're ranked against your coworkers. Bottom performers are chided by management. So there's a lot going on socially that previously wasn't. But add in a new dynamic to that. And that dynamic was that everybody was very, very passionate about sports, particularly passionate about UK football and UK basketball. I didn't know anything about it. And so to your question, how do you feel being the guy in the room where you don't know much about that and everybody else has made that like a core and fundamental part of their personality? I felt like an outsider completely.
Yeah, this is a big Blue Nation kind of... We may be poking them all in the eye here.
Well, and I don't mean to do that, because I'm not avidly against it. It's just I'd never had the attention span for it. I don't really have a head for names. And so when it's kind of a pissing contest between people, like to outstat the other person and know the most history, I already know that I'm significantly at a disadvantage. And so I couldn't be commiserate with these people, but I thought I could play the game. And so I faked it. And this got bad. This got bad quickly, because at the time, Tubby Smith was the coach and his son Saul Smith played ball. And that's all I knew. And I had heard somebody espouse the opinion, Saul Smith sucks at basketball. And I'm always a little bit of a cynic. I'm always a little bit of a critic. This is the one that I wanted to grab and make my own. And somebody said something, Saul Smith. And I'm like, this is it. This is my chance to relate to the guys.
I'm in.
I'm finally going to get my man card. And so they said something, Saul Smith. I was like, oh yeah, Saul Smith, that guy sucks. And everybody stops and they look at me like I shot the cat. And I'm like, well, now's game time. This is where men are made and where boys are made to leave. And so I went with it. I owned it. And I was like, yeah, if my dad was the coach, I'd have access to all this, coaching staff, and I'd be amazing too. But, if you think about it, he only got the opportunity because of his dad, and, he's a hack. And I was just saying crap I'd heard other people say. Well, it turns out they weren't talking about Saul Smith because he plays basketball or he'd recently done anything basketball related. They were talking about him because he was picking up his girlfriend, my boss, for lunch in about 20 minutes.
Oh my God.
So it gets back to the manager, and she ended up marrying somebody else. It doesn't matter now, but she was so amused that anybody would dare to say that thing out loud, because she was so used to people just kissing his butt and wanting an autograph or tickets or attention. And it became very clear I was not that guy. And so I came clean. I'm like, look, I'm just trying to relate to you guys. Clearly, I have failed, and I've been gobsmacked for it. I am sorry. I don't know anything about basketball. And her response was this. It was, listen, please go tell him he sucks to his face. Nobody ever does that. So after that, it was cool, but it was also very, very clear. Like, I just wasn't hanging with the guys, and I just swore off ever pretending or trying after that.
I'm a sports fan, and when I see someone that I know for a fact they never attended the University of Kentucky. In fact, they couldn't even have sniffed the air that surrounds the University of Kentucky, and they make their basement the University of Kentucky basketball or whatever. Even as a sports fan, I'm just like, surely you have something better going on in your life.
Do you think that's like a stolen valor kind of thing in your mind?
I don't know what it is. I think that when you are born here, and I don't think any of you guys are actually born here.
No.
When you are born here and you are 9 years old, and there's a song, or I guess I was 10, there's a song that comes on in 1984 because the University of Kentucky Wildcats are going to the Final Four versus the Georgetown Hoyas and some real blue bloods, and they had not been there since 1979. And why do I know this? Because I was born here. So I'm 10 years old. Kentucky's going to the Final Four. That's all there is, and there ain't no more. That was all over the radio in 1984 with Dinner Bell Mel Turpin and Sam Bowie and Dickie Beal and Dirk Minifield and all these guys on this team that they're going to the Final Four. So I think it's just born into people, even if they never make it to the University of Kentucky. I went there one semester and flunked out. And back to EKU, I begged them to let me back in.
And that just made you feel closer to the student athletes then, right?
I mean,
it's an odd thing that happens in Kentucky because, you know, where I'm from upstate New York. I was born near Buffalo. When you're born in Buffalo, they wrap you in a Jim Kelly jersey and they put a Bills hat on you and they say, "We have another one."
And you've still got that Bills hat on right now.
I'm wearing it right
Joe
now.
Dirt. It's like part of your scalp.
Yeah. But that's a pro sports team, right? And it's a weird thing that happens in Kentucky because UK basketball is almost the pro sports team in Kentucky, right?
Really is.
That's what you're born into instead of, you know, being born in Missouri and you're a Chiefs fan, or being born in Texas and you're a Cowboys fan. Like it is when I came to Kentucky, it was like, I went to UK for college. So of course they won a national championship the first year that I was in college. So I was sucked in right away. But it is strange that like what Lanny's saying, there's people that are just, maybe haven't even, I'm not trying to say anything bad about anybody who didn't go to college, but like you didn't go to UK, you're just here, and Kentucky's the team. So what's your connection to these college athletes? It feels different than pro sports. You know, I don't, maybe you don't feel that way, but that was something that I've always thought.
My prom date, senior year of high school at Dunbar, it was 1994. She knew the names of all of the UK basketball players, and that blew my mind.
Right.
I was thinking, like, why? How would you know? Why do you know that?
Well, I'll tell you why she knew it then.
Yeah.
There were 3 Kentucky guys on the team. That was the Pitino resurrection years.
Okay.
So there were, that was in 94. That was after the Unforgettables, but it was the first big team that Pitino had that really had a chance to do something. So, and why do I know this? Because I'm from here.
So, I'd moved here in '92, so all of this stuff was foreign to me. Plus, I wasn't a big sports guy anyway.
I moved here in '89. I was 6, so I hadn't really formed a pretty solid impression of the world yet. But maybe one of the other contributing factors, if I'm thinking about like relatability, I came from Western Canada, so I went from a place where hockey, and particularly like the hometown team, the Calgary Flames, won the Stanley Cup the year that we left. We went and saw some of those playoff games. Like that would have been the season of life where stuff started to ramp up for me. And then we had this gigantic transition.
I appreciate your comment, though, about where you're born, though, because I thought a lot about sports teams you like are usually an accident of birth. Right? You're born here. You like these. but it goes deeper too, because what Horsey's saying, if you don't have a pro team in town and you like football, then I've got a friend that likes the Packers because when he played, a very young age, every group got a pro team jersey, and he got the Packers.
That just happened to be the one he got.
And he got the Packers. He was on the Packers, so he's the Packers. And then our buddy Jonathan, the rabbit ears on their TV happened to pick up a Cleveland station.
And so Cleveland became the team.
Well, but no, I mean the downside is he's a Browns fan now, so it's not didn't work out maybe. But
I think proximity is more powerful for our entirety of our being than we will ever know.
Yeah,
if you can go and see the team play live, that makes a big difference.
Well, like you've got access too. I mean, I think particularly. I'll say our generation. I'll be loose with age here.
That's pretty loose, Paul.
I think we've got about a 20-year spread here. So is that
20?
fair?
I'm the oldest. I'm 50.
Yeah,
it's not
10
even
years.
20. 10
years.
I'm 40.
Doesn't matter.
46.
You're
41.
41.
Okay,
So a 10-year spread.
Oh, you're not that bad. Okay, I thought you were in your 30s.
I really appreciate that. I have been mistaken for being younger twice this year, and for my entire life, I've always been told I look older. From age 25 to 40, I've been mistaken for 40. So I've finally like caught up with my lane here. But yeah, so like I think I'll say guys our age, certainly folks like in their 30s and 40s, it mattered a lot more because we were children at a time where the internet was not ubiquitous. You didn't have access. Now I think you do. I think you can pick your favorite team based on whatever you can stream. You can order the merchandise on Amazon. Like it's all available to you globally. And I wonder if that's going to change the landscape.
No.
You say no. Well, let me ask why. Why do you think that?
For every one of those folks that you just talked about that they randomly became this fan or that fan, like Horse here, he's a Chicago Cubs fan. Why? I have no bleeping idea.
It's because I grew up in Geneva, New York, and we had a single A Cubs baseball team. And everybody that I knew that liked, New York.
Is this a feeder team for the Cubs?
Yeah, it's minor league baseball. It was part of the Cubs organization, and all the people that I knew that were from New York City, who were Mets or Yankees fans, they sucked, man, and I didn't want to be fans of those teams, so I was just a Cubs fan. So that's how that happens. But
I mean, where I'm from here, we are Reds, Bengals, and UK basketball.
And there's a lot. Yeah. I mean, there is a lot that
and there is so many.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You can't get away from them. Anyway, that grinds my gears. Just like you don't have to make your basement a shrine.
Guys, I think we hit our mark here.
Nice.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Soapbox, Eric. How can people find us?
Well, conveniently, we put everything on our Linktree site. You can go to Linktree, search SoapBox Lex, and you'll find all of our socials there, plus ways to reach us, ways to engage, and some of our original content, so you can see some of the other stuff that we do.